ChatGPT really had a tremendous growth early this year, racking up an amazing 100 million users within 2 months of the first release. And the way we've been bombarded with updates in the past months, the common thought that we all have is that ChatGPT still has an amazing followership, right? Well, the reality seems to be a little bit different than we might have thought. Morgan Stanley recently conducted a research with 2,000 subjects, and the result of this research will shock you. I will say, maybe, just maybe, ChatGPT is having a decline. And I'll let you know why I think this is the case in a minute. According to the research by Morgan Stanley, only about 19% of the subjects within that broad coverage had agreed to ever use ChatGPT. That's totally insane if you ask me. Although it just might be too early to start speculating, it might be right to say that investors might just have to retrace a little. And the more shocking thing about this is that only about 9% of this population had agreed to have used the Google AI Bard. However, this might just be attributed to the late entry of Google into the market, and we expect to be seeing some really good improvements over the coming days. I say this because there's been some really interesting new discoveries that showed ChatGPT's growing unpopularity might just be a result of Google filling the gap that they are leaving with Bard. And this is why I think ChatGPT is in a steady decline. This won't be so far-fetched as Google Bard really had an impact on ChatGPT with the initial release. I mean, it came with all these crazy features that were not readily available in ChatGPT. Although this might have just been the case for the earlier models of ChatGPT. And what I think is quite interesting, the OpenAI CEO Sam Altman had in a recent interview talked about the improvements and challenges of the ChatGPT program. But what is really interesting is that you will see here the interview has been pulled down on request of OpenAI. And this interview has some interesting revelations about the lags you might have just been experiencing in the performance of ChatGPT. In February of this year, OpenAI announced an update that will enable them to cover more users. But as the interview had revealed, there was a really significant downgrade, at least with the free version of the ChatGPT, although this was termed an upgrade, and I'll tell you why. Well, from indications, it seems the earlier jump in the rate of usage ChatGPT had at its debut is having a pretty deep impact. This has ultimately resulted in OpenAI having some really big shortage and availability of computing resources. And so came the need for the downgrade. And now, all those extra computing power carved out goes directly to optimizing the experience for the Plus users of the ChatGPT. Maybe OpenAI had the interview pulled down because they didn't want to come off as struggling, or maybe for the free users to not see themselves as any less important. This might be so as the system relies largely on user feedback to optimize its performance. In other news, we've all been aware that Nvidia has been making some pretty big moves to revolutionize the AI industry in its own way. And the crazy thing is that they take mostly different routes that seem to have really big potential. In the past week, at Computex, Nvidia announced their Avatar Cloud Engine, otherwise called ACE in short. We've had insane developments of different models of AI recently, and Nvidia seems to be tapping into all of these potentials. And the target of Nvidia with the Avatar Cloud Engine technology is the gaming industry. And what I'm about to show will really blow your mind. Nvidia is leveraging generative AI to create more interactive NPCs in gameplay. Usually, we have these NPCs with very limited responses, which were already pre-programmed in them. And honestly, it really does get kind of boring with time. With the ACE, different players can now have different responses to different interactions with the NPCs. This is just insane and makes for a really immersive experience in gameplay. And here we have a video of the demonstration.
Hey Jen, how are you?
Unfortunately, not so good.
How come?
I am worried about the crime around here. It's gotten bad lately.
Where a player engages in a conversation with the NPC. These are really interesting times, and we will be around to see how this will change the way we live today. But one crazy thing about this ACE is that there has to be some restriction eventually. If not, we risk the overall gaming experience and storylines being completely altered if we have unlimited possibilities. And this introduction is obviously Nvidia taking full advantage of all the new large language models for their own growth in the space. And talking about adopting new technologies, TikTok is cashing in on these generative AI sagas to improve their own product. We're approaching a time when every platform will have some kind of AI integrated into them, and this is really coming quick. And make no mistake, this isn't the first attempt by TikTok to integrate AI into the app. We've been seeing the testing of synthetic image generation for user avatars recently. This is where the app generates an AI version of any image you upload. And also, they're releasing a text-to-image AI green screen for generating background images. And it seems TikTok is even out to make the application even more addictive for its users. They're now partnering with Watchful to bring in another AI feature called Taco. Presently, this feature is only available in the Philippines as it is still undergoing testing. Taco is basically a feature that will help optimize user searches. Overall, what TikTok is doing with this is very similar to what Google is doing with Bard. It is basically presenting the user with more direct and detailed results to search prompts. And this is what we are seeing with Bard as well, though with much more extra baggage. TikTok has recently submitted a trademark application on Taco, and they're saying that we might not be seeing a widespread rollout of the feature just yet, as they're still monitoring the overall performance. And when this is finally rolled out, it is targeted that users will be able to see more interesting content on the application, which is tailored to suit your search options better. We definitely look forward to seeing how this feature will improve the overall experience of TikTok in the coming days. And also, Spotify is not being left out of these changes. And although there's been no official statement from the company yet to confirm this, there are rumors that Spotify is working on a generative AI voice clone for podcast ads. And this will be the second time we are seeing companies looking at AI as a good tool for advertising. In a previous video, I did mention that WPP was looking to partner with Nvidia on their latent diffusion models, which they deem great for advertising. So Spotify is towing the same route here. In Simmons' response to Derek Thompson's suggestion on this episode of the podcast about how AI-generated voice clones could be used for advertising and marketing, he made mention of this development that is currently ongoing in Spotify. And when eventually this is rolled out, we're likely to see ads that are very much tailored to suit the target audience. I mean, it will be easier for presenters to even address the target audience in their own language. And most importantly, this will overall reduce demand on presenters as these ads will already be preloaded, allowing them room to focus on their job. And this is expected to function like the AI DJ already in Spotify. The AI DJ is basically an AI-powered assistant that helps users with playlists that suit particular occasions while running commentaries. It's really amazing that the infusion of AI into our daily activity is well beyond plugins as we have seen in the recent past. And I'm very positive many other companies are exploring the options that they have with the application of AI, and we will be seeing some new moves from them soon enough. And as much as this new development will be making user experiences really optimized across platforms, there's an obvious downside that we seem to not be paying much attention to at the moment. And that is on the aspect of AI displacing workers. And the most scary thing is that this impact is already closing in, as there are already reports about employees being displaced because of the integration of AI. Let's look at this case as reported in the Washington Post of a copywriter, 25-year-old Olivia Lipkin, who was laid off without any explanation and later discovered that her company now fills in her job using ChatGPT. I mean, if they could get her job done within seconds using AI, there is totally no point keeping a human in the position. Aside from the very likely chance of error and inefficiency that might result as a human factor, having an AI doing the job is practically more cost-effective. So we're likely to see this happen more often from now on. Learning how to apply these tools in your work can be very likely a way to maintain relevance as a human. But still, running AI-powered systems require minimal labor and might just not make up for the opportunities needed for the current labor force. Overlooking some of these woes, it is no doubt an interesting ride that we have ahead in the AI race. And it will continue to be a constant competition with the tech companies on who will maintain the front line. A company like Google is doing really impressive stuff, and we still look forward to what OpenAI will be doing with ChatGPT 5 or newer models. Thanks for following through till this point, and we'll see you in the next videos.